So to that, our first session, and I'm delighted to welcome a fantastic speaker who had the pleasure of interviewing Luxembourg a couple of weeks ago. It is Ninian Wilson, CEO, Vodafone Procurement and Connectivity Company. A warm welcome for Ninian, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing today? Everybody good? Yeah. Apparently, it's a dual location event. New York and London, and I got London. But to be fair, it's a very long drive from Luxembourg to New York, so I think it's a little bit better that I'm here today. I was reflecting back a little bit for this presentation. They were saying, Ninian, what are you going to talk about? And I said, let's talk about surfing transformational change. And I was reflecting a little bit around part of my career, and 25 years ago this week, I saw an advert in the Times newspaper for a process manager. Can you believe I was a process manager? Process manager for a company called Cable and Wireless, one of the internet darlings in 1999, growing like crazy, internet bubble, doing fantastic. And I applied for that job at Cable and Wireless, and I was fortunate enough, after going through the interview process and sitting up with the interview panel until 2 a.m. in the bar, to secure that role. Now, I was also reflecting what a huge amount of change there's been for all of us in procurement and supply chain and the world in general. I had a quick look last night when I was trying to think, how the heck do I do the opening part of the speech? Because you're all going to be super excited and you don't want to fall flat. So I thought I'd give a couple of things for you to think about. So 25 years ago today, Cable and Wireless was one of the biggest telecommunications companies in the world. Anybody know where it is now? Gone. Ceases to exist. 25 years ago, in a few months' time, there was a company whose share price was 22 cents per share. Yep. A CEO who'd left them had just joined back for $1, his annual salary, a guy called Jobs, a company called Apple. They seem to have done okay in the last 20 years. Their share price 1,000 times higher than 22 cents. So you see the level of change we've all experienced over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And it's exactly the same for procurement and supply chain. So let's have a canter through surfing the transformational change waves, and hopefully to give you all a little bit of a think about the next wave and the next S-curve that's coming. So, hold on. First wave. The first wave, and I joined Cable and Wireless on the 11th of January, and my boss, Martin Ward, on the 17th of February, I think it was, or around about that time, said, Ninian, we're going to the Capital Committee, and you're presenting on e-procurement. Everybody remember e-procurement, Commerce One, all the platforms, Ariba. We were Commerce One, but we were Commerce One. Everybody remember all of that e-procurement stuff way back in 2000? Absolute explosion. And I remember Martin Ward gave me a briefing on the back of a cigarette packet and said, Ninian, this is the next big thing. Go and sell it to the Capital Allocation Board. And I said, how much money do we need for this work? He said, I don't know. Make it up. So we had a little bit of make it up. We went and asked for a couple of million to implement Commerce One, which later became SAP Commerce One. And for us, that was the first technology-driven transformation of the procurement function. We used technology to transform not just how end users interacted with procurement, and we did something called an electronic purchase order, which was automatically transpired straight to the suppliers, but we also used the money to start to transform the people, the skills, and the capability. Technology without great people and great skills is nothing. It's just really good tech. So that was the first S-curve from about 2000 to about December 2000 when the dot-com crashed. But we kept going with our procurement transformation. So thinking about that technology-led transformation, what was the second one, which we have seen as the huge S-curve, which hopefully you've all been surfing for the last few years? And this one is around digitization of your function. So not the transactional activity, but really thinking about how you transform, how you manage supply chain, and how you manage supply chain in your company. Yeah? KPIs, metrics, dashboard. We have something in Vodafone, in the procurement company and throughout all of our operating companies called no PowerPoint. We do no KPI reviews with PowerPoint. Zero. Nada. Nothing. Everything is driven by the digital dashboards. And even Bash, who's here, who's the head of supply chain management for the UK, knows that he cannot put a PowerPoint slide together because I say, let's look at the dashboard together. All of the savings metrics, category strategies, plus all of the transactional things that you'd expect us as a company to manage. And that really started in 2014 as the second S-curve. I think there's probably a build here somewhere. I don't know if these are real numbers or not, so if you're taking photographs, you're probably taking photographs of my performance review for half a year on these numbers, which is kind of okay. So let's see, we've got logistics, supply chain. We didn't even have visibility of how much physical inventory we had. We didn't really know where our savings were. We didn't know where our KPIs and all our other metrics were. And we used to spend how many weeks putting this together on PowerPoint? 3 weeks. And then what did we do? We all argued and said it's out of date and I don't recognize these numbers. And the colleagues in South Africa said, well, I don't even agree with the KPIs, right? Which is kind of happens. Complete change once you have automated things, you've agreed the KPIs. There is one version of the truth, and all 950 people in supply chain management see this. There's no argument. It's kind of straightforward. It's their numbers, their dashboard, and we do performance reviews based on this. And it makes life more transparent. For those of you who are not good at procurement, you need to be worried about life being more transparent. But you're all good at procurement because you're here. So therefore, things being more transparent is a great thing. So I had a new boss join me last year, and that's an emotional thing for anybody in business, when you get a new manager. How are they going to behave? What are they going to think about? How do I manage the new boss? And he arrived, and then I had double jeopardy because he actually came from a supplier who I'd been negotiating with, and I'd been negotiating with him, so it was like, oh, sugar. Yeah, was I too soft in the negotiations? Was I too Scottish in the negotiations? Or was I somewhere wishy-washy in the middle? So we had the first meeting, and he joined, he got his email set up, and he said, Ninian, we should probably sit down and talk about how you run procurement. So I sent him a link and said, there you go. And he said, came back a week later, he said, this is great. And he was the ex-CFO of SAP. And all of our dashboards runs on Celonis. So he said, this all runs on Celonis. I said, it's great, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, that was the start of a wonderful relationship, as you can imagine. What you can see here is in the middle one, we've got all of our transactional management KPIs. If it's green, it's brilliant. If it's amber, it's an improvement area. If it's red, you're dead. Yeah, so it's kind of how we do it. And you've got the compliance metrics as well as the transactional efficiency metrics. We started, for those of you who are into transactional efficiency, which some of you are, it used to cost about €3.08 to run a PO through the system. I think it's now €1.06 or something, €1.06, €1.07. You've got the catalogue percentage ordering a bit below target there, I think at 81%, a bit below. You've got perfect PO, which is a PO running through a system without any human intervention. So you've got all of the different metrics there. Everything real time, everything point and click, everything that our end users get to see. I can even tell how long it takes my boss to approve a purchase order. So does it take him a second? Does it take him 2 days? Does it take him, an hour or two? Is he paying attention or just clicking the button? And we've got all of that transactional activity, if that's what you want to have, as well as the strategic stuff. Second S-curve of procurement. First S-curve, e-procurement. Second S-curve, digitizing how you manage the function. And we're going to come on now to the greatest opportunity as procurement people you'll ever have, to transform your function and to ride the next S-curve. And everybody talks about Gen AI, doesn't it, yeah? You've all looked at the Gartner hype cycle. You all know exactly where it is. It's right at the top of the hype cycle. You know what happens next, don't you? What happens next? Disappointment, yeah? Hype cycle, disappointment, and then slowly builds the real use cases. The real use case for Gen AI is sitting in this room. And it's incredible. And the opportunities are fantastic for us in procurement to use them. But it's also scary. And it's a little bit scary for a lot of the people in our business, because when you hear people talking about Gen AI, they talk about efficiency, right? When I talk about efficiency to my team, what do they think? Less of us, yeah? Yeah. Now, I actually know as a procurement professional, as many of you will also know, you never have enough people to do all the things you want to do. So for us, this is creating oxygen in our procurement function by taking away some of the simple tasks and allowing our people to focus on strategy and category developments and category strategies. But there's a thought. My head of IT procurement in Vodafone, Nola, she said, Ninian, we're going to do an update on where we are on Gen AI. And we're rolling out Copilot through our business, and we've linked it with all our spend analytics. And she typed into it in natural language. With natural language also understands Scottish. This is brilliant. Yeah. So in natural language, she said, for this certain supplier, who will remain nameless, begins with the letter A, what should my, now you're all thinking, what should my strategy be? Gen AI read every single email we have written in the last 3 years around that company. It then pulled together strategy, how we'd position and what we should do. Okay, so it's beginning to learn how to do procurement strategies. So amazingly exciting and amazingly scary at the same time. Because I know the company with A is doing exactly the same on their side of the house, saying, how do we sell to Ninian? How do we sell to Vodafone? How do we get to the optimum pricing position? How do we manage the relationship? So for me, the S-curve is coming. The question for you in the room is, where am I? Am I sitting watching and waiting to see if this is a big thing or not? Am I on the S-curve? Am I surfing the S-curve? And what happens if I fall off the surfboard? What's it going to feel like if I get it wrong? But with all new tech, it's never going to go perfectly right first time. And part of the thinking and the rationale is developing a way of thinking where getting stuff wrong is perfectly okay. And you can experiment and you can move fast as a company, and you can trash stuff that doesn't work and go on to the next thing. Where are we? Past, present, and future. I was joking with someone before. When I started my career in a company called British Gas, actually, in the UK, if you were no use in the warehouse anymore, like you've broken a leg or an arm, they said, why don't you have a go at procurement? Yeah? With all respect to all my colleagues who now work in logistics, which is now what it's called, we've come a long way, right? We've completely professionalized the function in which we sit. And for us and for me as an individual, we've done that using technology and surfing these different waves and S-curves of change. If you think of the past, pretty unstructured. All the boss used to talk about was we couldn't get the PO out. What are you doing, Ninian? Why can't we get the PO out? What happened to the piece of paper? Can you fax it, please? Yeah? Yeah? So these were, for those of you who are young, these things all did really exist. Yeah? And it was the lives of a lot of us was chasing POs and bits of paper, and then couldn't get the fax machine to work, and I got the wrong number, and then they couldn't send back confirmation because it ran out of bloody paper. That was the real world. Not anymore. For us in supply chain management, we kicked off our AVA program, which is our autonomous procurement tool a couple of years ago. We're now on revision 2, goes live on Monday with embedded AI. And I saw it, I hadn't paid attention to it for about 6 months. I was working on some other things. And they came and demoed it to us. It writes the spec for an engineer. You've bought this type of service before. Here is your draft statement of work. Are there any changes you'd like to make? Here are the suppliers I'm recommending. Here's how we're going to run the procurement process. Here's how I'm going to mark and score it. And I'll tell you the results before I upload it into SAP. My staff still told me it's going to negotiate. I still think they're bullshitting me, yeah? So I don't know quite how it does that yet. But I do know every position, my starting point and my finishing point over the last 10 years of procurement contracts. So then teaching your machine how to negotiate shouldn't be that difficult, right? But then I'm also thinking, what's the A company teaching their machine to do? And do we have machines talking to machines and coming up with crap deals like I've done personally in the past? Sorry, I've never done a crap deal, just some that are better than others, yeah? So how is that interaction going to work? One of the companies we work with on a recent bid, 87% of the response was written by AI. 87% of the response. So do I still need to give 6 weeks for a tender response? Or can I shorten it? We think we can take 30% out of the procurement cycle time, which means I can do 30% more negotiations. That's okay if the price is coming down, not in an inflationary market, so you want to think about that, but 30%, right? That's a big efficiency wheel for us, becomes a flywheel of efficiency and benefits for Vodafone. And in the future, I'm not quite clear. I'm a little bit scared, like everybody is. I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit concerned. But you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it, and I'm going to get some learning from my organization. And we're going to surf that next technology S-curve to transform what we do with us and our partners in terms of procurement. Someone said, how do you run technology-led transformation? I'm going to finish with 3 things, because I think I'll probably close on time. And the 3 things I would say, and I learnt this from a company called Accenture, which was not the A, or it might have been, which I talked about earlier. And they said, Ninian, when you're thinking about technology, start small. I met a company called AT&T a few weeks ago in America, who are kind of a big telco, as you know. And they said, I can't do an American accent, but they're saying, Ninian, think about the blast zone. That's American culture. Think about bombs going off. Right, blast zone. They said, think about when you're doing start, if it goes wrong, how many customers does it impact? So you manage the start. You start small. You think big. And then with all internet capability, you scale fast. You scale it quickly. So when someone comes and says, this is great news, we're going to surf the next S-curve, and we've got a 5-year implementation plan, forget it. I've got a 90-day POC. If it works, we'll take it to minimum viable product, and then we scale it across the organization. This is really difficult to do, especially when we think about the level of risk we try and run as supply chain. So we tend to be quite cautious individuals. Oh, there's a bit of a risk. Let's go slowly. It's a year. Can we wait until SAP's got it as a product roadmap? Yeah, we'll wait for that. Can I wait for Oracle? Yeah, we'll wait for that. Try some POCs. If you can't get your name on your executive committee and ask for a bit of AI funding, you're never going to get it. I did a CIPS thing 2000, and I said, are you on the bus? Are you stood at the bus stop? Are you on the bus, or are you driving the bus? Think about it. Think about where you want to position your function, your people. Tech is brilliant. Technology now is amazing what you can do. And you can see it from a number of the partners who are out in the center. There's great innovation, tells you how to negotiate, gives you the prompts. The A company's got their one, giving them the prompts, you know. So will the outcome be better? I think it probably will be better. Great tech, average people, average result. Great tech, great people, amazing result. So even though I've talked about the technology, it's always about the people. It's always been about the people, the skills, and the capability. You marry the two together, you really excite people, they get enthused. They actually, I was speaking to someone, Nina, I think it was, I was speaking to Nina earlier, and she said, some of our people in AI are saying, give it to me, give it to me. It's really, she didn't quite say that, so sort of lays it up a bit. They love the tech, right? Think of some of the tech you've tried to push in before. People have pushed back against it. It's not been friendly. It's not been helpful. It's not making them look successful and do their job better. Now's the opportunity to grab that. So I'd encourage you all, don't stand at the bus stop watching the buses go by. You can do that in London. They all go by. You can wait for another bus. Let's wait a year. Let's wait for the next bus. Yeah, starts raining. Yeah, you're getting wet. You could be on the bus, sitting there, driving to the destination, or you could be actually at the front of the bus, helping drive it. So with that, that was my thoughts around, what was the presentation called? Surfing the S-curve of technology, but it's all about the people. Thank you.
Ninian, thank you very much. Thank you for that overview, and thank you also for sharing those candid photos from your last surfing holiday. You have a wonderful photographer, sir. Wonderful. Very quickly, before we move on to our next session, are there any questions immediately from the audience? We can take probably one before we move on. Do we have any hands going up? We do. I will just get a microphone out to you. And if we keep this relatively short and sharp, I'd be very grateful.
Great session. Thank you very much. I was wondering, what is your advice for those companies who haven't ridden the first two waves, but they want to join the third wave?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's two things I always say. If you're starting a journey, that's great, because the journey starts with the first step, right? So I would speak to some of the partners who are here or your ERP provider and say, listen, we've not even made this first step yet. Help us make the first step. And then I'd also say to them, and by the way, I'm not paying for it, yeah, because you're going to help me make the first step. And if it's successful, then I'll give you some money to help accelerate the change. So try and, as a Scottish person, something for free always sounds a little bit expensive, but I'm usually happy to go with it, yeah? So, is that okay? To get started. Start.
Thank you very much indeed. Afraid we are going to have to move on, but Ninian Wilson, thank you very much indeed.